please put your hands together. Welcome the Redken Global Artistic Ambassador, founder or co-founder of Sam Villa, the man, Sam Villa. Oh, hey, Sam, what are you doing? Sam.
Hey, oh. What's up, Andrew? Oh, hey, so you got everything done? We're ready to roll?
Dude, I'm fast at this. These guys did not show up this morning to hear me talk about stuff. They came to see you cut hair, so I want to get through it fast.
All right, I'll get through it. All right, guys, you're probably wondering, thanks, AC. I'll see you later, buddy, and come in when you need to. All right, guys, you're probably wondering, what are you doing, Sam? Well, first of all, guys, I'm excited about today's class. It's all about texture cutting techniques. I want to make that perfectly clear. Texturizing cutting techniques. And yesterday, Mandy McCullough from Seattle, Washington, a Redken artist, Sam Villa ambassador, and we're so fortunate to have her as ambassador. I mean, she killed it. So it's blending. She talks about how the head shape, understanding the head shape, how important it is, and understand where there is weight and where it lives. I mean, it was an incredible class. So I want to pick up from that. I don't want to overlap that. So I'm going to focus on techniques and giving you techniques that you can use. And I think tools are great. This is one of the tools that we just introduced, guys. I'm going to bring this up close because you got to see it, Andrew. There we go. So this is really cool, guys. This is our Pro Results 3-in-1 blow dry hot brush. And it's got 3 things that it can actually do. So you can use it as a low speed blow dryer by simply placing it on right here. And then you can also use this as a blow dryer hot brush setting, which is what I was doing. So I'm going to show you. Okay, guys. And I unplugged it. There we go. Okay, so I have it on that second setting. So it's acting as a small blow dryer, and it also emits hot air. So this would be like a hot tool. Look at, see how it's getting red inside? That's with no air. So let's say I want that and air. See that? Look at that. How cool is that? Okay, guys. Then let's say I want it as a hot brush only. So when I want it as a hot brush only, I'm going up to the top. And right here, you'll see the heat implements. So what I've done is I'm going to be demonstrating on some wefts. So I need to blow dry the wefts. And when I jimmied up how I wanted to do it, I thought, oh, man, I can't blow dry them because I'm pulling this. Lifted up the safety, the good old brush that I've fallen in love with, our Pro Results 3-in-1 blow dry hot brush, guys. And you'll fall in love with this. Anyway, wanted to share that with you. So if you were wondering what I was doing, then you could just come in, guys, and I can hit this with the flat iron. All right, so let's talk about today. Let's talk about today. Texture. Texture, when we talk about texture, let's talk about defining that word texture first. You know, texture is about the surface of the hair, you know, the texture of the hair. What I want to talk about is texturizing techniques are about removing weight or about diffusing lines in hair, let's say. And there's a lot of ways to do it. And so I'm going to talk about that today. And as I was saying, I really want to go in and focus more on technique and the why behind the technique, and then the when. When would you use that particular technique? So I thought one of the best ways to show this so you can see really through it would be the removal of weight in terms of being able to see it like this with wefts. I also have a mannequin, so I'm going to share with you on a mannequin. But let's talk about a couple things first, all right? First of all, there's a couple things that I need to be aware of when I choose to texturize. What's the fabric? Okay, so we need to really understand the type of fabric that we're working with. Understand the limits and capabilities. And a lot of you have heard me talk about this for years, about the limits and capabilities of the fabric. It tells me, if I understand the limits and capabilities of fine hair that versus a texture that has coil to it, then I understand each one is different, and I need to treat each one differently when I choose to pick up scissors, when I choose to pick up texturizing tools. So I have to understand the limits and capabilities of the fabric. Once I understand the limits and capabilities of the fabric, I decide, okay, what's my end result? What do I want to do? Do I want to remove weight? Do I want to build volume? And then one of the things Andrew was talking to me about earlier, which I thought was brilliant, was, you know, texturizing can also build a shape within a shape. So think about that when you're working with it. And I'll kind of go back and revisit that as I'm cutting. So think about that in terms of a shape inside of a shape. It really does. Remember, we were all taught what? It had to blend. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to blend. One of the first things that we started to do with a texture was we started working with blending shears, or what some people refer to as thinning shears. Now, less teeth, more teeth. Less removal of weight, more removal of weight. You have to understand the amount of teeth that you have inside of there. This one is a reversible. It reverses. Understanding where you place the blunt blade affects the line and can affect movement. So this is something that we did. And what we would do, you might pick this up and you might say, okay, I'm going to take out weight. And you would pick it up and you might do this. Okay. But when you do that, you have to understand what's the angle that you're going in and you're working with. So I have to understand, how am I picking up the hair? How am I elevating it? I have to understand, how am I over directing it, moving side to side? And then I have to understand my scissor angle, my shear angle, which I really believe is one of the most critical things that you need to do. So it's not about just texturizing here and picking up and saying, I'm going to texturize this and cut it. Mandy talked about this yesterday. You go back, you revisit the same elevation, okay, up and down movement, and the same over direction. Okay, what I'm going to talk about now is getting into that, primarily that shear angle. We have to understand the angle that shear. So let's talk about that. So if I'm going to work with a texture shear, and let's say I'm going to place the blunt blade in the bottom, so the bluntness is on the bottom. So if I go in here and close, guys, I'm going to come down here more so you can see it. When I go in and close like this, let's talk about what we just did. You can almost see it right now. Look, when I hold the comb down, you can start to see that what I've done is I've cut a blunt line inside of that. I'm going to bring it closer so you can see that. All right. I'm going to bring you lots closer. Okay. And you can just start to see there what I've cut, what I've done is I cut that blunt line inside of that. Let me get over here. Okay. All right, cameraman, hold it still. Okay. Right here. Look at it. See it? You could just start to see that. If you can see it, just write yes in the comments, guys. Okay. And what happens is when we do that, you have to understand the reason that you can see that is because you chose to use the shear in a horizontal position. So the angle of your shear is critical. So if I want something a little bit more kind of, let's say, movement to it, then what I need to understand is, where do I really create the movement? Does it here? Is it here? Or is it in here? Mandy talked about this again yesterday. So that angle is important. Watch. If I go in and close my shear at this angle, what I'm doing is I'm cutting short to long. So I know that if I tickle this, that hair is going to have a natural common tendency to just kind of float in this direction. Okay. If I cut an angle that goes this way, then I know that if I cut that, it's going to go from short to long. Then that hair, when I tickle or it moves, it's going to float from my right to my left. Does that make sense, guys? If you're with me so far, just put a yes in there, guys, so I know that you're with me on that. So with this shear, what I want to do is be aware of, the amount of weight that it takes out, number one. So Sam, what if I didn't want to take that much weight out? All right, now let's combine that now. Okay, watch this. So I say I take a diagonal section, okay? I take a diagonal section. I over direct this diagonal section because I want that hair to fall short to long. Where I want more weight, I'm pulling away from. So watch, I'm gonna have more weight falling this direction. Everybody with me on that? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say to myself, okay, so if that's what I want, but I don't wanna take out what this shear does, then what we're gonna do is take the blunt shear, and I want you to just simply, just like a highlight, just come in and weave it. So you weave it. Now watch me put the line in. Now look at that diagonal line I put in. When I put that diagonal line, watch when this line falls back, guys. Look how soft that falls, okay? There's no visual hard line in that. But if I start to just move this and just do this, it's just going to start to float from that direction, diagonally, from short to long. Are you with me on that? So angle, what I'm trying to get at, the angle of your shear is so important. Now, I've seen, working with this, in terms of this, how some people like Chris Moody from the UK said, Sam, I've done whole haircuts with these things. He loves them. They're reversible blenders. So let's just go through here and let's just take this haircut right here. So let's say that this particular, and everything okay, Andrew, or did you push the wrong button, buddy?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I do full haircuts with those blending shears all the time.
Aren't they amazing? I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to show you right now. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to come in and show you right now how I'm going to create an angle in this front. Now, why would I want to use a blending shear? Because I'm talking about, I understand that the texture of this hair, let's just set up a scenario, is more kind of like an Asian texture. It's really broomstick. It doesn't move. So I want to give it some pliability, guys. So if I come back in here and let's say I want to create a nice angle around her face, and I'm here, and I do this right here, if I cut a blunt line, it's going to fall blunt. Then what we're doing is we're coming back and you're repicking it back up to go in texture. So what I suggest is come in and put the texture in immediately. So watch what I'm going to do. What I want to do is create just a face frame angle that sits right here. All right. So I'm going to bring her a little closer. Okay. So you can watch me create this. And then what I want to do is also, let's take her just a little higher for you guys. Okay. Today, I want you to just see these things a little closer. Good. Excellent. Okay. Joan, glad you love the shears. I'm glad you love them. All right. Watch this now. All right. So let's get this out of the way. Let's just clip this out of the way. Dry cutting clip. Clip that back. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to turn her 3/4 so I can get the angle that I want. Okay. That's important. All right. Here we go now. So I'm going to take a diagonal forward section. See that? All right. Then I'm going to come through and I'm going to take this diagonal forward section. I'm going to over direct. I'm going to determine where I want my angle. That's about where I want my angle. But remember, I'm working with very Asian hair. So watch what I'm going to do. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come through. Instead of me cutting blunt and just cutting, I'm just going to weave it. Okay. Look how I weave that line. And I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to push. So I go in, I cut a couple and I push. All right. So I'm going to weave again. Okay. I'm going to cut a couple and then I'm going to push. And now I'm going to just, so it's not extreme push like you see me do before. But what I want you to watch is, watch how what I'm getting here is how I'm getting a very, very, just a soft angle to that. It's got some weight to it, guys, which I love about this. But I really go in and I love just the edge because I'm getting a softer edge to it. So it's almost like as if I had gone in and scanned this edge. All right. There was a question that came up, AC.
Yeah, Aaron's asking, when you pull it over like that, when it returns back to its natural fall, it's going to fall at different lengths. So those blunt lines, they're going to diffuse, correct?
That's correct, Andrew, because over direction creates graduation. Over direction creates layerings. Absolutely right, guys. So watch. I'm not going to just pick this up, lay the hair there, put my hand here. Okay. I want some movement. I want some degree of softness. So I understand that if I over direct this, what I'm doing is I'm getting the degree of shortness here. Watch when it collapses. And you see I'm getting my length here. But because of the way that I'm elevating this, I'm going to create some weight. See, I'm below a horizontal, at or below it. But now watch. Here I come into that line. Hold your head still, my dear. Okay. And I just come in and I weave and close. Weave and close. And I just push. So I'm not doing it extreme, like maybe you see me do it extreme in a fringe area. I'm not doing it so extreme. But now I want you to watch this. I want you to see this. Look how that hair is tilting back. Okay, I want to give you, yeah, you see that? Look at that. So it's not just falling down when you look at, get my hand where I need to be. Okay, when you look at these ends, look how just a soft rub and look at how they're floating and they just float back. So you see how, if I understand the tool and the fabric, how I can go in and use this tool to create a line. Now, why would you want to do that, Sam? You're breaking the rule of what I was taught. Well, I was taught, get your precision, then come back in and texture. But based on today's world, in terms of where we're at, I really suggest that what we do is you find express ways of doing things. Everybody's talking about express. Well, it's not that I'm trying to hurry, guys. It's just, if I can get to the end result in a shorter period of time, I'm going to do that. I love to watch cooking shows, and a lot of the concepts that I get is how they're teaching cooking and how they're mixing things or what they're doing or how they set themselves up. So in cooking, what happens is those guys, they don't have much time. So what they're discovering is what used to take them time. They are discovering ways to make their time, to get what they need. I don't know, bread to rise, but they're finding ways to do it. Are you getting my message here, guys? I hope you're getting that. Now watch what I'm doing here. Okay. I know that if the grain here is the same, even though I'm cutting this line, hold still, my dear. I know you're anxious. Even though I'm cutting this line, what I'm aware of, I look at my guide, watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to weave. See this? Now, some people say, well, Sam, why don't you scan it? Well, some people, when I teach them to scan, guys, what happens is they end up cutting their hand. So here's a good way to get a scanning effect, not so much a thinning effect, but a nice solid edge. Look at the edge. Look at the edge. Look at it just float back. You could just, here, I got to really lift it. Okay. And you can look at how soft that is as I'm working this into. Okay. If you're learning something, just type a big L in there.
Yeah, that's awesome, Sammy. So I I might have missed it. Can you explain why you kind of push the hair back with each cut? You know, why you don't just kind of camp out?
Andrew, you're so smart. Guys, let me do it here on the over here, Andrew. They can see it. And this is one reason why I have these guys. All right. Let's keep kind of destroying this one. This is a great way to work out, guys. Grab some wefts. What I did was sew them together, took a cork board, and I used a T-pin and just stuck it right inside the cork board. The cork board is up on the wall with Velcro. My wife says you're the king of Velcro. But anyway, so what I want to do is I want to go and show you how I push this. So let's bring this over here, and you can see it now. I want you to watch this hair here. Watch this, guys, okay? And then I'm going to demonstrate on the mannequin too so you can see it. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to weave this, okay? And watch when I close. I'm going to close and then push. You can see the hair in here. It's moving, okay? So watch and you'll see it move. Watch me close. Now watch the hair out here where my hand's flicking it. Watch this. You see how it becomes more transparent down there? Look at it. See that? So what's happening is I'm closing on the same spot, the same line, but because I'm pushing it, this hair here, it's moving in my hand. See that? So it's giving me, watch this. Look how I comb this technique out. Comb it with just your comb vertically so you do not pull on the tangles. Now watch this. I should have all the length, but it's very diffused now. Does that make sense, guys? So you see why we push back is so we pushing the hair to a different position, but we're cutting on the same spot. Does that make sense, AC?
Yeah, for sure. Where was the solid blade placed when you were doing that?
All right. Because in this particular case, we're going to weave, the blunt blade is on the bottom. Watch, guys. If I turn the teeth over, there's just no way I can weave this with the teeth. You see what happens? I'll turn it this way. You see what happens? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, in this particular case, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to go with the analogy, I want it under, I want it over. It's okay because I'm going to texturize this. It's going to give me more pliability. I can get it to do up or I can go under. Okay. I'm going to come back to that reverse thing in a moment here. So now watch this. Watch how I'm going to weave this. Now I got the line I want, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside of it now. And I want this to have more pliability even when it has. So I'm just going to push it. See how I'm reading it? I'm going to give you a view here. Okay, let's go here. Turn your head right there. Okay, now hold your head there for me, my dear. Okay, so now watch this. So what I want to do is I'm going to come through. I'm going to cut it the same way, put texture inside of this now to give me more movement, to give me more pliability, if you will. All right, here we go. Look where I'm at. I'm in depth. I'm where there's a lot of weight. Look what I've got out here. Here we go. Watch. Push. See how I push? Where I see that C, about the end of the C, that's where I'm going to come in and weave. So I'm going to weave it diagonal, and I control the weave based on density. Now watch what I'm going to do. Look at the angle of the shear. That's diagonal. Now let's push up, close, push up, open, close, push up until all of that hair that you wove, here it is, right here is gone. Okay, and you can see how soft that edge is. It's not hard. Now watch. Let's comb this out. Now watch what I'm going to do. You saw me cut my soft line. Here's my soft line. Okay, just a moment, guys. So important you see everything. Okay, this is my soft line. Look at my soft line. Okay, but now my line inside has a soft diagonal line that I can barely see. Okay, so now watch this. When I start to do it, and I haven't blow dried this or anything, but when I just start to do this and manipulate this, I get a little bit more control out of that. See that? Then what happens is when I hit this with a round brush, that just starts to just float. And it floats because of the texture that we put into it. Questions? Concerns?
Yeah. So Jeanette was asking about, is this mainly just good for thicker hair fabrics?
Read the density. Absolutely right. Read the density. Okay, so density. What are you talking about? Density, we all know, is about what? Somebody tell me. What's density mean to you? What's density mean to you? Yeah, Nyla, what I did was I reduced weight. Yeah, this I wouldn't suggest this on fine hair yet. If I had fine hair that had good density, I would do it. Does that make sense, guys? You see where I'm going? So let me give an example. Look at this. Here's some fine hair. Okay, and I'll come back to this when I pick up another shear. Here's some fine hair, but the density in this is good. Does that make sense, guys? So where am I going to go after that? I'm going to go into the thickness, into that thickness where that density is. Okay, so you could have fine texture, but you could have a medium coarse fine texture. Somebody was saying you could have a medium density. So the texture of the hair, remember, that's the fiber itself. It could be fine, but they could have a lot of hair. So it could be fine, and maybe they have 20 hairs. Now, I think you got to be careful in terms of how much weight or how extreme you get into texturizing it. AC, go ahead.
And what about curly hair?
Yeah, curly hair. I wouldn't. It's not good on curly hair, guys. Curly hair is a texture on itself. Remember, and now first I want to set this up. Guys, I was taught with the shears. I was taught precision. But then I went to point cutting because they were told me you need to do that because they're picking up round brushes. Then we discovered that they want volume. They taught me how to take the volume inside. So, things progress. So curly hair, I wouldn't recommend doing this on curly hair because I think it depends upon the type of curl that you're working with. If I have extreme coil, I think it's going to make it frizzy. Now, that's just my personal belief. Okay, I'm not here to say what's right and wrong. I want to make that's my disclaimer. Not here to say what's right and wrong. Now, I will go in and use a technique on curly hair since you asked. Let's go ahead and show you something. Now, you may disagree with what I'm about to do. I'm okay with that, but it works for me. I've discovered that this works for me. So let's say curly hair, as well as I do, when you go in and you layer curly hair, you can expect it to get expansive. Okay, I find most curly hair, they want that hair to have some weight to it so it doesn't expand. But yet if someone tells me they want volume, I want to leave length, but I want to create something inside that's going to give volume. So watch, since you've asked me on curly hair. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe they want volume in the crown area. So I'm going to take a horizontal section because I want to put some weight into this, guys. I want to put some weight into this. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. Okay, now I'm going to come through with a blunt shear and I'm going to work with the streamline. Okay, and this is a shear that I love to point cut with. Why? Because of the narrowness of it. Look at that. Okay, so I love to point cut with this, and it's smaller, comfortable in my hand. So the handle itself is not as wide. It's much more narrow. Great for a smaller hand if you're looking for something. Okay, now watch this. So if I have curly hair, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through. I'm going to weave this. Okay, then I'm going to just examine where's that hair curl, and I'm going to close. Sorry, guys. Did you see that, AC? That was weird. I know what happened. Mateo comes in here, and believe it or not, the little guy, my son, will grab shears, and I know he's probably been doing something with those. Believe it or not, he does. I know they're sharp. He shouldn't. But watch. Okay, I weave it, and I close. Okay, now when I close, what happens, I'm taking that out, but remember, it's curling. So let me grab a texture and show you, because you got to see what I mean. Andrew, you with me on that in terms of that, how that's working?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the big thing I love, you are the one that I first heard this phrase from, is the ends need friends.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the simplest way to put it, because then it puts it back into perspective. It's not necessarily that you can't texturize curly hair, because you absolutely can, but it's all about, are you placing tiny little holes in between the fibers, or are you taking pieces away that will actually allow there still to be some ends next to each other to combine and to get the density back in?
Yeah. So let's just look at it like this. Watch. Love what you just said. Let's just look at hair. Okay. So what we're saying is, I'm going to leave, if I weave a shear in, I control the width of what I weave. In natural curly hair, you want to weave it so that what you're doing is when you leave the hair that's long, you're leaving lots of bunch of it. So watch what. So if I weave, I'm going to leave all of this hair alone. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to weave it right there. So now look at this. So can you see, I just took out a little bit of hair there. Now I'm going to come through and I'm going to weave here. So now this is the hair. Does that make sense, guys? So look how much hair I'm leaving here. So I'm down at the base. Here's the hair. And this is based upon what I'm showing you. I'm going to demonstrate here. See, this is me taking the shear and just actually weaving it. But see how I weaved it? I didn't weave this like a very fine highlight. I weaved it like a chunking highlight. You got it? Okay. All right. So watch this. Okay. So if I see this, what I want to do is I'm not going to pick this up with a comb because of the texture it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come inside. I'm going to take finger. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to lightly weave right in through that face there. And I'm not going down to the scalp, guys. So what I did is I just took out small amount. But that, when I go in and work with it, it's going to give this a little bit more of deconstruction, but it's going to give this, it's going to spring up inside and push this up. Does that make sense? See, I really feel texture hair, the more coil it gets, the more deconstructed it needs to be. So I hope that answers that question on that, Andrew. Okay. All right. So what we've been talking about is we've been talking about the blending shear and how the blending shear works. Okay. This is critical, guys, in regards to the blending shear. When I'm working with my blending shear, we understand that. And we were talking about earlier, if I have a bob, okay, if I take the blending shear and I place this on the bottom, the blunt blade on the bottom, I've put a blunt line underneath and texture on top. That's going to give me a softer pliability to roll under. Reverse it, place the bluntness on top. Now you're going to get this to flip up. Okay. But when I weave, I want it on the bottom. Cool. All right. All right. Let's put this back there so I don't lose track of what's the next project. So on curly hair, you want to start weaving closer to the scalp. Hope. You don't want to weave too close to the scalp. Okay. Just determine the amount of density. Okay. So you normally will stay about mid shaft. Okay, but remember, you're weaving a chunky weave. That's the most important thing. Go from mid shaft inside. That's about where you want to be on that texture of hair. Cool? All right. Ellen. Hi, Ellen Devine. Hope you're doing well, my dear. All right, so that's the bob. All right, so we've talked about blending with this shear. We've been talking about the texture shear, going in and using that. Sometimes when I want to go, people, I see them, they'll take the shear and they'll slide. When we do that, I recommend what you're doing is you're working with our Invisablend. Okay, so let's just go with this. And here's where I want to go with this is on blondes. So Andrew, I don't know about you, but I find that blondes here are probably the most difficult type of texture to layer. And the reason being is because of the color itself. And that's because of the smoothness of the texture, or even if it's the color. Because of the color, you can see the lines. So allow me to make a mistake here. I'm just going to take a section, guys, okay, and go through. I was using the reversible blenders, guys. Question is, what blenders were you using? That was the reversible blenders, and the team will put the link or they'll put info on there for you to research that. All right, so let me watch what I'm going to do. Permission to make a mistake. Just type yes in there. Permission to make a mistake. Let me make a mistake and show you guys something. Can I make a mistake? Yes or no? Type yes. Santa Barbara City College. Hey, guys, what's up? Is SB. I hope that's Santa Barbara. I'm sure that's Santa Barbara. How you doing in Santa Barbara? We can't weave on very thin or fine hair. I wouldn't recommend it, Sonia. If you weave on fine hair or thin hair, you're making it fine. But then again, my question to you is, what's the density? Density plays a major role in a lot of this. All right, permission to make a mistake? Yes? Okay, watch this. I'm going to bring her up close. Okay, how many times does this happen to you? When you go in and you layer bonds and you see this. If this has happened to you, say yes. Okay, yes. Oh yeah, look at everybody. My 4-year-old is yelling yes. I love that, Samantha. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Pato. Yeah, absolutely. This has happened to me, especially when I go and layer blonde hair. So when we texturize, I always want you to remember when you're using a texturizing shear, make sure you're not going in there horizontal. Okay, I'd go in there vertical or diagonal. Vertical and diagonal lines. Vertical is softer and diagonal is softer. If I go in horizontal to soften that, you're just putting blunt lines inside of that again. So what are you going to do, Sam? I'm going to use a reversible blender. This is a reversible blender. Now, please don't panic, guys. I'm going to make sure I got the right one, Andrew. Yes, I do. All right. So now don't panic. Look at my finger, and I'll let you see the pressure that I'm putting on that. And I'm just going to slide my finger. Ow. Oh, Andrew, I had the wrong shear in my hand.
I don't even have a mannequin set up. I can't take over.
Okay, I didn't. All right, so you're wondering, Sam, you're crazy. What are you doing? Well, we over polish this blade so that if blades are dull, what are they going to do? Somebody write it in there. Starts with a P and ends with a U. It's going to what to the hair. When I go and if I have a dull pair of shears, what's it going to do? It's going to what? Starts with a P, U, ends with an H, start and has my first letter. Yeah, you push. It's going to push. Okay. So what happens is when I push this hair, then what happens is because it's being pushed into this, you're going to get a scallop. So what you're going to get is you get this effect. So watch the black. You're going to get this. That's what it does. It does that. So when I go through and I use this shear, it's pushing the hair. So watch what I mean. Watch. See that line I just created on the blonde? That's a mistake. Watch. I'm going to place my hand because I can see where that is. And you can do this anywhere on the head where you're at. If I had a blunt line there, I would do it here. Place your hand there. Use the back spine of your comb and just push up. Then once you push up, turn. And now what I have in my hand is what needs to be textured. Is this making sense, guys? You see, I'm just using that comb to grab it. So, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to release what I have here. Okay, so now watch what I'm going to do. Once I'm here, watch how I'm just going to come in at a diagonal with the blending shear. So I'm going to come in diagonal because I know diagonal softer, and I want to soften that line. So I come in. Now this one is made for you to slide out. See how I slide out? The reversible blender is not made for you to slide out. I want to make that clear, guys. Okay, so I come back in, I move over, I come back in, move over. Now watch me reverse. I reverse, I reverse, I reverse. Now watch this line. Let's just let this line go. Okay, and now watch. Okay, do you see what's starting to happen, guys? I could do it. Yeah, I could do it one more time, but you can see how that line is getting softer. Let's place our hand. Look how I just push up. Everything comes up, and then I just turn. See, I'm being a little bit more intent and purpose with my texture. Andrew and I were talking about that. If I pick up some of the hair, I'm okay with that. Relax. But I am doing this with intent and purpose. Intent. Diagonal, slide out, intent, purpose to create a softer edge. I reverse it. Sam, why do you reverse it? So I get more of a point. Diagonal, 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 diagonal. If I just go diagonal one direction, that's short to long, then that hair is going to move this direction. So remember, once again, what's the shear angle that you're placing when you texture? Now let's take a look at that. I'm going to bring her really close. Oops, let's turn her. See how that's diffusing? I could probably go, turn her so you can see. I could go right here. Whoops, let me float to it. Right there. See, I look at my mirror and I see where I need to go. Your mirror is your best friend. So what I don't want to do is look in the mirror and then go here. No, I want to look in the mirror, point to where I needed to go, and then pick that up. Okay, that's with intent and purpose. Okay, now once again, look, this is not about being. This is going to happen, guys. It's not about being in a hurry. This is just really going through. I see a lot of it on social right now. A lot of people picking up the hair now. And they're using their shear, which I'm loving, and they're just coming in and they're just carving out with more intent and purpose, just carving out. And I'm going to show you what's happening with that. But let's go back to this line. Look at that. So how many of you panicked when you got that, when you saw me do that line? But if you could see the result, say yes. If you're impressed with the result, just type yes. It's pretty amazing, right? It's the shear, Andrew. It's just understanding the shear. And once again, the fabric that we're making. Okay. Yep. So good. Yes. Awesome. Good. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Blending it. Beautiful. Yes. Great. Roller girl. What's up? We love you. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So you see, texture, let me just say it this way, AC. Texture, my friends, is all visual and feel. So number one, in other words, what I'm saying is there's just no way you can cross-check it. You got to visually see it. Then I got to come back in and feel it. And I got to move it around. And when I move it around, I can just start to see what's happening. Are you with me on that, guys? All right. So now let's take this texture concept and let's go into salon scenario. This is a client that came in. And in the old days, if you recall, guys, I'd say you set up a fringe benefit. A fringe benefit was basically you would give them a free bang or fringe trim in between each appointment. But now with restrictions, it's one client at a time. But I'm talking about creating an express service. So create what used to be a fringe benefit, create a story out of it where it includes the fringe and the face frame and the ends. And that's half the appointment time at half the cost. Okay. This is what clients are looking for in today's world. You're doing it with the color world. I suggest you figure ways out to do it within the design world. So let's go through. So what are you going to do, Sam? I'm going to go through and create and just trim up her ends. Remember, what I would normally book on a 45, I might book this maybe on the 30 or 20. Okay. You make the call, guys. Once again, just the messenger, just giving you some ideas. I'm going to come in and I'm going to work with my 625, I'm going to work with that. And now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in, go one angle. Okay, let me bring it higher so you can see. One angle, another angle, and another angle. Now watch me reverse that. One angle, one angle, one angle. So you can see there, what I've done is I've created a series of points. Okay, see those series of points? That's what I wanted to create. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften those because those were blunt. So now I'm going to come in, take my comb, reverse, and I'm going to fan it. I love the point cut, but when I point cut, I love the fan. Okay. I've discovered if I do this, watch this. Okay. I'm going to put it behind my black shirt. Okay. I discovered when I do this, like this, look how much weight you see. Do you see a lot of weight there? If you see weight, just type the letter W. Okay. Now watch what I'm going to do. If I leave my hand like this, then I'm going to get pretty aggressive with my point cutting until I take out what I want to take out. Okay. But if I come through and I fan it, now I'm reading it in a position the way it's going to fall. Allow me to explain that. Okay. Watch. When I take what I have in my hand, watch it fall. Okay. Watch her fall. Okay. She fell from here all the way over to here. So I don't want to read just this much. I want to take what I'm going to take here. Okay. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to fan it. So that way I can see how much I'm going to take. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go parallel with that hair because I've established my length, but what I want to do is soften. So watch what I'm going to do. See how that hair and my shear are parallel? Stay with the black. See that? Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to open and close, but now I'm going to move the fan. So by moving the fan, I move the fan to the same position so that it's parallel. It's a horizontal line. It's parallel to the floor. Okay, so now what I've done is I left the halo of length, but I've gone through and I've created negative space. Negative space is where we can see through it, and positive space is where you have more massive hair. Okay, so now when I release this, why are you doing this? Remember, the scenario is she came in for a dusting. She came in for an appointment called You and I. She came in for an appointment called what, Andrew? What was that other one? There's a couple that we had there that we learned about. I can't remember what that third one was.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, they were awesome too, weren't they? Okay, watch me drop this now. When I drop this, guys, look how that edge now, it looks like it wasn't just freshly cut with a blunt line, unless that's what the client desires. Okay, did you learn something there? Now, that's trimming up those ends. Now we go for a face frame. Look at the face frame. And once again, I want to go through and take care of that. But what I want to do is I want to keep her nice and soft at the same time. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up my reversible blenders. I'm not going to pick up the Invisiblends because if I pick up the Invisiblends, I'm going to take out a little bit too much. I mean, it's going to go in and not leave it as blunt. I want a little bit more blunt action. This will give it to me. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim her ends, but I want them floatable. So once again, all I'm doing is a simple dusting. So now, do I want this soft? Yeah, I want it soft, but my pushback is not as deep. Okay. Once again, just trimming up her ends. Get behind me. Okay. See that, guys? That's all I'm doing is just trimming this up. And then once again, guys, reason I'm showing you this is because I want you to start thinking about express services. I really want you to start thinking about that. Watch again. Look how my pushback is soft. It's not extreme. Okay. The more extreme. Now look how I clean up that edge. You see the difference on that edge? Give it to you right there. Okay. I'm going to come back to her fringe in a moment. All right. So I come over here on this side. Okay. Look how I keep my elevation low. It's very fine hair, guys. So I don't want to go in and elevate too high. I want to keep my elevation low. So you see I'm taking fine hair, but look how I'm not pushing back. Why? I want more weight there. So it just gives me a little bit more of a heavier line, if you will. Okay?
Sammy, doesn't that create split ends though?
Oh, wow. I get that. Andrew, watch. All right. I love that question. Watch. And I get that all the time. Let me say this. People go, oh, Sam, I've seen you do this, and I've seen you do it in the crown. You come in the crown and you do this, and you come in and you do this, and oh, it makes me cringe. I'm like, why? Because you're damaging the hair. All right, well, let's talk about that. First of all, what's the cutting angle? What's the cutting edge on this particular hair shaft? Okay, starts with a B, ends with a T. Okay, what's the cutting edge? The cutting edge is what? Blunt. Okay, so now when I push back, if you're concerned about damage, if I close this, that's a blunt edge. As I push back, you're probably concerned, well, what are you doing in the cuticle? Yeah, I'm lifting up the cuticle. So are you creating damage? Yes, you could say I'm creating damage, but I want that pliability, that texture to change. In other words, here's what I'm trying to get. Silk. You're seeing fashion designers mix fabrics because they want to alter the weight, the pliability of the silk. So it's the same thing, guys. So it's about what I'm doing here is this. I'm getting a blunt. I'm going against the grain of the cuticle. Yeah, it's going to give it more texture, but I've got product that's going to take care of that. Now, let me get really strong here and say this. When you decolorize, when you balayage, are you not damaging the hair? Yes or no? I think the answer is what? Yes. But you have to understand, guys, the priority is that's the color she wants. But you educate her, okay, we need to use a bonder inside. We need to use acidic bonding concentrate, red from Redken, etc. You see where I'm going here, but she wants to be blonde. So it's the conversation that you have that sets up your wealth. So I'm going to let you know, Gwen, I'm going to go in and I'll be using a technique and I'm going to push back on it like backcombing. Okay, it's not damaging your hair, but it's going to give us the priority we want, and that's going to give you volume in the crown. Okay, let me go do this. Look, watch. This client, we just talked about highlight. Now, stay with me. She says, I can't afford a highlight, but she wants volume here. So what do I need to do with fine hair? I need to disrupt it. Okay, you know as well as I do, most fine hair clients, what are you suggesting to them? Let's highlight it, let's color it, because it alters the texture of the hair. In the old days, what would we do? Most cases, we'd perm it. So we altered the texture, the movement of the hair. But now what we're doing, we're focused so much on color. What I want to do is be able to say, oh, well, you can't afford color? Never fear, Sammy's here. So watch what I mean. I'm going to come through, take a section, okay? And please bear with me here because you're going to cringe, okay? Because I was not taught this. It's a discovery and it works. She can't afford color. So I'm going to take my shear. I'm going to open up the thumb blade. I'm going to rest the blade here just like I would a razor. Well, why aren't you using a razor? Because a razor is going to really slice the hair. I want to put more pressure, more structure into this. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come through. I'm going to scratch that. See how I scratch that? And then I'm turning my shear and I'm going to go against the cuticle. Then I'm going to come in and scratch. And I'm going to go against the cuticle. So what I'm doing is it's like, oh, but watch where I'm doing it. Stay with me, guys. Stay with me. I'm doing it. Here comes the texture. Watch. Look how much I'm taking out. That's how much I took out. Okay. But I'm doing it underneath. And what's on top is beautiful, shiny, healthy hair. But what it's doing is it's giving me the volume that she's looking for. Does this make sense, guys? See, that's satisfying a client that can't afford highlight, can't afford color. But the texturizing techniques come into play. Some people have a philosophy and a belief system. I do everything with a shear. Fantastic. I respect that. I like having, like Mandy said yesterday, she used a beautiful analogy of color brushes. Colorists, you're angling your brushes, you're chunking your brushes. Why? For application. That's why a butcher has a butcher knife, a bread knife, a steak knife, a vegetable knife, etc. Because each knife is built and structured and engineered differently to give you a different result. It's the same thing that we're talking about with the tools that we have available to us, whether it's shears or whether it's texturizing shears or whether a razor. Each one has a different effect on the fabric, on the hair shaft itself. Questions, concerns? Did you learn something there? Did that scare you? Everybody, I'm sure it did. Can you do a Chinese bang? Diamond Lee, what's a Chinese bang? Help me out there. I would love to do a Chinese bang. Texture, a hot iron. Can you do it? Okay, I don't know what it is. Does this have to be done on my hair? How does the haircut age? Okay, great question. Let's talk about that. Okay, there's a general rule that I like to suggest, guys, when we talk about texture. Okay, I'm not going to come back in because the client says to me, Sam, I love the texture. Would you do it some more? My learning lesson was this. I would texturize and get this result. Okay, I'm going to put it against my shirt so you can see. Then when she came in, she said, Sam, I love it. I want it again. So then I'd do it again, and I'd end up maybe like this. Does that make sense, guys? I'd have maybe, I took away some of that length. So now she's starting to get frizzy. Anytime anybody tells you I'm getting frizzy in my crown, they're over textured. Okay, remember that. So what I want to do is this. I textured. First time she came in, now she's coming in for a second visit. I point cut. That allows that length to drop. So you see what happened? Now add a weight. She comes back in, I texture. She comes back in, I point cut. She comes back in, I texture. So do you see how I'm controlling that texture? What I don't want you to do is keep texturing appointment on top of appointment on top of appointment. That's why you have to understand texture is all visual and feel. Is that making sense, guys, on that? Cool? All right, I'm going to go to razor now and talk about razor. All right. Roller girl. I love you. All right, let's see. Sam, what do you do for the coarse hair, for chopped hair in the bottom part of the hair? Actually, a great little thing to do on the bottom part of the hair is, depending upon the texture of the hair, we recommend an Invisalign would be a great shear, or a crosshatch. What I just showed you down here, going diagonal one way and then diagonal another way, works to eliminate that, okay? Point through the hair of the ends. You could definitely point through the hair of the ends. But what are the ends? Watch. Let's do this. Watch. Okay. You're asking me some good questions. I'm going to take out some shears I didn't think I would use, but I'm happy to take them out. One of my favorites is the 7-inch dry. I noticed Mandy said that yesterday. It's one of her faves. I like working with a swivel a lot because it allows me to really get to adjust my wrist, my arm, in terms of what I need to get to. Okay. So watch this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through and show you something. Watch. Okay. And I'm just going to show you here. Okay. Because we're going to talk, the question was about point cut into the ends. All right. So now I gave you an example of what I'm not looking for. And what what a lot of people, sometimes I look for this on these bobs now, but what a lot of people are not looking for is this, that just blunt kind of end. What they want is they want it to look a little refreshed, which is why we went in. And what I said is you could come in, you could pick this up, gather it, reverse it, and point cut. Okay, now watch how just point cutting this is going to soften that. But look at how, once again, I understand negative and positive space. Look how I keep the shear parallel with that hair, even though it might look like it's a diagonal, but look at the hair. The hair is there. Look at my shear, same angle, and I move to it. Now watch, just doing this made this softer. Okay, and you can just start to see how that made that softer. Okay, so once again, you could point cut. Guys, there's so many things that you could do in terms of that. Cool? All right, let's go to the razor. I want to get into the razor. This is a really cool tool in terms of that, in terms of using it. Now, I'm going to share with you something. With a razor, it's a very emotional tool, meaning it has emotions of its own. So the idea, guys, is understand when you grip this, you grip it tight, you're going to be taking off a lot of hair. It's a lot of emotion in that cut. Okay, so hold it very lightly. And notice I don't have a blade in it. What I really recommend that you do is that you are changing the blade every time you use it, no matter for how long. And we're giving it a little container. So I usually put my disposable in there. I just picked up a new blade, and we do this in front of the client. So what I want to do is I want to make this fringe right here. This is part of her little visit. Look at that one side I just trimmed up. Look at that. Oh, excuse me. Over here or over there. You can see that, guys. Okay, let's go to the fringe. Watch. So what I want to do here is I want to create this a little bit more. I want to get this front face frame area. Her fringe should be a little more pliable. I want it to float, but I want this also a little bit more kind of aggressive, if you will. So look how I'm holding the razor like I would write my name. Just like I would write my name, holding like a pencil. Now look at the grain of that. And I can start to see where I need to go. And once again, I want this just PC exaggerated. She's 18. Okay, and she's come back in and it's grown out. So now watch what I'm gonna do. Look how I'm just point cutting into this. Okay, And look, see how I'm going and watch it in slow motion. I just come through and I go against the grain of the hair. See that? And I flick. See, that's what's going to watch that. Just this one area, you can just start to see how I'm just getting a little bit better movement out of that, just giving that some pliability. I love to use this. I'm going to go on the sides here. When I want this weight to be gone and I want it more floatable, I want it more piecey, this is a great technique to use. Okay. Now, if you're afraid, well, Sam, I'm damaging the hair, then what I want you to do is pick up Redken's 1 United 25. And I want you, before you go into that, just spritz that. I like to use the higher the bottle to determine the distance. Okay. And that's going to give that a little, it's going to gather the hair a little bit more. So it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. The more wet it is, the more you're going to take out. I like to do it dry, but if you want to soften that cuticle, just use your 1 United. Now watch. See how some of that's gathered now? I'm going to go here so you can see. There we go. Okay, right there. Now just watch how I come in. And you can just see the hair that's coming off, but look how I just come through. Now watch this section, guys. Okay. People go, Sam, you're crazy. I'm going to read a statement to you when I'm done, and then you'll find why I'm crazy. Okay? If you think I'm crazy. Now watch. See now this edge? Look at this. Watch this. Now that edge, I'm not even going to really try. Look at it. See how that edge is more pliable and how that just floats now? Okay. That's what's great about this particular technique. Now watch. If now she comes through and she says, I want to roll that forward, okay, I'm going to take the handy Pro Results 3-in-1 blow dry brush. Watch this. And I'm just going to come through and I'm just going to take this, swing this forward, okay? So remember, I made this PC. So the idea, once again, look how I use my hand when I do this. I just like using my hand. Now watch this. And I did that maybe 2 sweeps. Look what I got. You see the pieciness I got out of that, guys? Really makes your work easy. So, Sam, what's up with the tool? Guys, simplicity is today's brilliance. That's why it's so important to understand texturizing and how to do it. It's today's brilliance. If I can understand texturizing, I'm going to be able to create these express services. You know, I'm not saying the haircut is losing its value. The haircut is important because that's the base. But once I got that in, allow me to go in there and create longevity. Allow me to go in there with texturizing cutting techniques to create simplicity for my client to take care of. So I really think, guys, Andrew, when you think about texture, there's one thing I'm going to read to them, but I want you to understand this, guys. This is something that look how old this is, Andrew. And then Mateo got a hold of it.
Nice.
But allow me to read this to you. This is something that a class that I took in 1981. A lot of you probably weren't born. And I went to London. It was at 81 or 79. I can't even recall. But I went to Savile Row in London in the heart of Piccadilly Circus and took a class with Trevor Zorby. And Eugene Solomon was the assistant at the time. And one of the things that they gave us in our notebook, it was a creative photography class that I took for 4 days. And one of the things that they put on our notebook was this whole thing, because the class was really about expanding your creativity. So allow me to read this to you. This comes from Trevor Zorby. This is not from me. Creativity, how to develop your creativity, which is what the focus of the class was. And stay with me, guys. Listen to this, because it's going to impact the why behind today. Are you a stylist? Anybody can be creative. Anyone can be more creative than they are now. Each of us possess inborn creative abilities that can be reached, developed, and strengthened, just like our physical abilities. These are common misconceptions and blocks about creative styling that prevent many of us from being more creative. Being creative does not always mean being artistic. There are many ways that one's creativity can be expressed in this industry through salon management, product sales, advertising, and promotional work. The researching and development of products is another way to go. Coloring and perming techniques, or the cutting and dressing of hair itself. You see, recognizing and removing emotional and cultural blocks is a giant step towards developing greater creative skills. Emotional blocks, and I went through this one. Fear is the most common emotional block. You see, some of you are probably laughing at me in terms of saying, oh, I would never do that, or you could be laughing. I'm okay with that. See, I've released that emotional block because I've done these things and I know they work. And I'm speaking true to you guys. The fear of appearing stupid or making mistakes, or the fear of failure. That's what an emotional block is. To become more creative requires a positive outlook, not a negative, judgmental one. Come on, comment in here if you're liking this, guys. So ego. Ego is another thing, guys. Ego says falling in love with one of your ideas can stop you from experimenting with other new designs and concepts. Don't fall in love with just one tool. Challenge yourself to use different tools. Challenge yourself to understand the why behind your tools. Self-confidence is essential to creativity, but don't stop looking for new or better ideas. There's danger in the comfort zone. Cultural blocks. Interesting. Our cultural blocks are caused by attitudes in society and among our peers that inhibit creativity. The attitudes that block us from exploring the creative possibilities are constantly telling us what is right, what is wrong. In classes, I was told, well, that's not right, Sam, that's wrong. That's not right, Sam, that's wrong. You don't know how many times I got that. But what is possible, but what they don't share is what is possible and what isn't possible. I mean, you need to look at both sides. These blocks are so much of our education and upbringing, they're blind as to how they can be barriers towards developing greater skills. Are you hearing me, guys? If you are, just say yes. Yes. To help break the cultural blocks, keep in mind that logic can solve problems, but creativity requires a leap of the imagination. Creative ideas often don't make any sense, and an illogical idea may not be a bad idea. Look at expressions creativos. If you're not following them, follow them. They're from Spain. Expressions creativos. They're incredible because they stepped out of the box. And now because they stepped out of the box, people will go, wow, they demand command. They get it. Okay. So because creative ideas often don't make any sense, people go, whoa, what did they do? That doesn't make any sense. But now people are capturing and embracing it. The whole pastel, digital, what do they call that? That coloring, Andrew? And a logical idea may not be about awareness itself may be all that's necessary to free your thinking, to be more creative. Today was about awareness, guys. To be more creative, you must be able to communicate your ideas to your client and correctly along with their options and all of the possibilities and combinations. To become a more creative stylist, experiment and play, guys. Experimenting sometimes means breaking a few of the rules. Did I break some of the rules? Did I hurt your belief system? I apologize, but I'm doing it because it works. So before you can be creative and break the rules, you have to understand the strong foundation and understanding of the basic cutting principles. Mandy McCullough, go back and watch that class. Strong on that. This was more creative than techniques. So it's easy. First, learn and understand the rules, then experiment and break a few of them. Remember, the person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd, but the person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places that no one has been before. And so it is with creativity. Now, let me say this. I want to read you this. When you do the common things in life in an uncommon way, you create a sense of enthusiasm for you and you command attention. Bring it on, AC.
Absolutely. Thank you for reading that. And we actually had a bunch of requests. Do you know where they could find that? Or is it something maybe we could take a picture of and post for them or something?
Take the picture.
I don't think they're going to be able to read it.
They can scan it. I'll try it. And what I'll do is I'll try to get Ashley to type this up, and then we'll put Trevor Zorby on the bottom and see if they can do it. But yeah, I'll type it up and let's see. Where would you suggest we put it?
We can put it here on the Facebook page.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll put it. And we'll give shout outs to Trevor Zorby.
For sure.
1980. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can do that. But I hope they had some fun today, Andrew, and really got something out of today.
For sure.
It's always fun. Go ahead.
Special request. And I want to make sure I do this because Sonia asked this earlier, but you were more into the texturizing. Can you show them the little thing that you do with your comb? People just love that.
Okay, Andrew, I would be happy to, buddy. All right, let me see here. All right, so this is what, here, I'm going to put the comb down first, okay? So this is what, this is fine teeth, wide teeth, fine teeth. So you all do this, okay? I'm going to comb with a fine, I'm going to go back to the fine, I'm going to cut, etc. So what you want to know is, where does my comb go? The goal is to get the comb in between like this. So that's the goal. So what I want you to do is first just practice this. Watch my hand. Watch me, the thumb move it, but now watch my ring finger come underneath it and I'm there. Watch again. Okay. So I come here, middle finger comes underneath, pushes it, thumb comes on top, brings it around, and ring finger opens up. So that's how that's done. Now, once you've done that with just the comb only, now put the shear in your hand. First, continue to do this, and I'm going to go slow. So I'm here, thumb, open up my shear, I'm ready to cut. Now, sometimes what happens is this could get in the way. So when I'm there, I just open and I catch, and I'm there, and it's easy. And this makes it easy for my comb to stay out of the way. Here's why. Let's get a little deep into it, Andrew. Watch. A lot of times when I would put my comb here, I'd be coming in and cutting it. Okay, does that make sense? You see, I put my comb here, and sometimes it would get in my way. So what I want you to do is this. If you can't learn to do this, what I'm doing, okay, this, okay, then what I want you to do is take your comb when I'm ready to cut. Watch how I'll hit the pocket of my hand and now float up, and now my comb is completely out of my way. Does that make sense, guys? But the reason I do this, Andrew, is to get the comb out of the way. But as I said, sometimes it gets in my way, and sometimes I just drop that, it just falls right there. I'm good to go. That help you out, Sonia?
People love that thing, man. Like I always ask you to show people that, and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to show it, but people love it.
Shakina, why am I just now getting this live notification? Because you were meant to be here today, my dear. That's why.
Yeah, and we've actually had some feedback in the, I don't know that there's a solution that people are getting their Facebook updates that we're going live kind of late. So we apologize for that. There's nothing that we can do on our side. It's something within Facebook. But yeah, Sammy, what a great class. And like you said, this is such a great follow-up from Mandy's class yesterday, because it just continued to build on what she set up so perfectly yesterday. So make sure you go back, watch that episode. And like I said, I feel like what you shared today just built on so many of the things she shared with us yesterday.
Awesome, buddy. Guys, I got to tell you, can I be really honest with him, Andrew?
Yeah. Go ahead, because I'm right with you.
Andrew and I, when this tool was first, the discussion of this tool was brought up, Andrew and I were like, no way, no, it doesn't fit. It's not our call. Blah, 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 blah. But for reasons, we're like, no, put this in the consumer's hands. Let the consumer have it. But I got to tell you, Andrew, I don't know how you're feeling, but see, guys, this is what I wanted to tell you. Mindsets can be changed. You can still be who you are, but your mind can change. Yeah. See, so I embrace this tool now. I love it, Tom. I love it, Beth. Yeah. I love it, Kurt. I love it, Dana, because I'm experimenting and playing with it and defining how it can work for me. So yes. I'm loving it. So I just had to share that.
I'm with you, man. And like you said, we get to change our minds. We get to, my friend Carlo Novoa, he said it so perfectly the other day. He's like, I am not the same person that I was yesterday. So of course I'm going to continue to shift how I see things. And I was like, that's so easy and so simple and perfectly put. We were resistant to it because of who we were in that moment and our mindset in that moment. But we evolved and we changed each day. And so now we see it differently.
Yep. And like we say, some things are not for everybody, guys, hold on to what your belief system is, but do me a favor. Also hold on to what you believe, but find new things to believe in. Yeah. That's important. That's important. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Sammy.